Were journalists always this wishy-washy and incapable of sticking to an opinion? Have they always been like this and we simply never noticed? Normally it is hard to follow the journalists' deceptions due to the fast news cycle. This year, though, it was back-to-back media misinformation, and they were spinning stories, getting proven to be liars, refusing to address the lies, and then moving to the next lie before finally going back to admit they were lying all along so fast it went from hard to notice to impossible to ignore. The coverage of games this year, whether it was fake positives for games like Kill the Justice League, Dustborn, The Veilguard, or the lies and slander of Black Myth, Wukong, Stellar Blade, and Palworld, they have betrayed their values, attacked the audience, and proven themselves incapable of integrity and honesty all year long. Journalists are already starting to go back on Stellar Blade, and we all expected this. We knew this would happen. We saw them do it with Samus, they did it with Bayonetta very famously, and they started to do it with 2B from Nier Automata after spending years hating on 2B for being too pretty. When Eve from Stellar Blade was revealed, the same people who hated 2B before were now praising her design as they juxtaposed her to Eve, as now Eve is the problematic, unrealistic female who's too pretty, too sexy, and too appealing to look at. Ironic, since journalists were immediately shut down on that lie when the studio not only proved it has several female staff, but Eve herself is modeled on a beautiful, real Korean woman. What is crazy here, though, is they almost always wait until the new excuse, a new too sexy woman to tear down and hate on. Now they're just turning on their own takes unprompted. They couldn't even go a full year before this game that they were saying wasn't worth the gamer praise when it came out is now one of their top games of the year. It's funny because when the game came out, they attacked anyone who was praising it. And now they seem to have all come around. Couldn't even last a year. Dragon Age the Veilguard, failure being blamed on content creators by industry clowns. According to this respected industry expert, if you played the game and didn't like it, you are a grifter. And if you did not play the game, you are also a grifter. It's griftception. This was to downplay anyone saying Veilguard was worse than Dragon Age 1 and 2. By the way, that's an objective fact. Veilguard sucks. Games which he himself has not played, so he considers himself an expert. I'm going to be blunt here to the guy that made games where the god of war went around banging and tossing aside women like they're living onaholes. You're right, I am responsible for Dragon Age the Veilguard's failure. I mean, people look, this guy is a games industry veteran. He knows a lot about the success and failure of games, so he knows that his games don't have anything to do with his talent. It was all about content creators. It was us all along. So if you want someone to blame for Veilguard failing, look no further. I was solely responsible. Heck, I have messages from people who were 20 hours in, loving Veilguard. It changed their lives to the point where they were barving every time they misgendered someone in real life, which they stopped doing after a couple times because their arms were getting very sore from the push-ups. They saw my video on Veilguard, instant refund, threw the disc away, burned all their non-binary Canary merchandise. That's me, I did that. I'm the captain now. And after journalists spent the year making up a lie about the Wukong studio being sexist over something journalists mistranslated, and when called out, refused to apologize and kept knowingly spreading the lie, are quite happy, surprisingly, about Wukong making it into the Game of the Year category. They're taking the L very well, and have realized one of the best-selling and best-performing and best-realized and best-received games of all time is actually a good game. They finally came to an agreement with the game. No, of course not. They're completely melting down over the nomination, throwing their typical tantrum, complaining that the game should not even be considered because it was a game that gamers enjoyed, and that is a bad thing. Yes, journalists are at such a point of neural divergence that their brains are floating over their head. The games media thinks a game that people who play games enjoying the game is a bad thing. And this mindset is shared by consultants, certain devs, executives, activists throughout the industry. How is anyone wondering, at any point, why AAA games are failing and facing so many layoffs, when their structural belief system is diametrically opposed to success? Really, after getting utterly ruined over the Wukong coverage, why are so many, quote, different, unquote, media sites showing the same hate for Wukong all at the same time? Why? This pretty woman hate leapfrogging they've been using as an excuse to destroy all feminine curves. Are they shamelessly doing this on speedrun? You see a game's media logo on Twitter, and your brain starts to liquefy even before you read the clickbait title. You know you're about to get stupider. Well, maybe they just all changed their mind. We all do that, right? Play a game that the combat's a little clunky, but after a while it grows some charm. Don't get a vital plot point until the second playthrough that makes it really click. Or or the typical, you say a game studio making a game with a hot woman is making the world more dangerous for women to even exist, lie about them for a year to inspire a hate mob of woke lunatics to harass the developers, and a few months later turn around and be like, I kind of like that Stellar Blade game. We all do that from time to time, right? Manipulative, deceptive, completely against their purpose. Journalists, they had a job to do, they stopped doing it, and then they blamed everyone else for noticing that they weren't doing it. Do you think developers spin the wheel of privilege when they're making a character? And if they're making a good guy, do they only pick from the outer ring and villains from the inner ring? That would actually explain quite a bit of what's going on. This world right now is completely beyond parody.